Hi, welcome back to the shed for episode 12 of Great Guitar Build Off 2023, and in this episode we're going to install the fret markers that we made last week. Rude. Okay, so it's time to start getting this inlaying work done, and this could be quite a long and stressful job, but we are where we are. It needs to be done. I've got all my inlays safe and sound in this box, so I'm not losing them because I don't want to go through the process of making them. And I'm going to start with this big one just because I think it's going to be slightly easier. And I think the key to this job is going to be accuracy. And to that end, I'm going to have to be doing quite a lot of marking out and cutting to sever the grain and the fibres in this wenge, because it is notoriously splintery. I've got a big box of scalpel blades, so I'm not going to be shy of changing blades and using new ones. I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to set this sliding bevel to the exact angle of my fret slots, and that old scalpel blade will just help me do that. Now, in theory, these should all be the same angle, but for what it'll take to reset this on each one, I don't think it's a big deal. Now, I've set these dividers up as well, and I'll be using the same measurement for the first 3 or 4 markers, the big ones, and then as they get smaller further up the fretboard, I'll be doing a slightly smaller size just to bring them a little bit closer. I think that consistency away from the fret will make everything look a bit more even. So I'll bring you in a little bit closer and we can start to get this first one laid out and get it recessed in. I'm just a little bit dubious about this job. Could go one of 2 ways. And I've got this raised up off the bench just so I've got room to work around it and I can get my saws at the angles that I need to, and also it's fastened onto the bit of wood so that if I need to I can just flip the whole thing round in the vise and work from the other side without any fuss at all. To get started with this, I'm simply going to mark on here where I want my first one to start, which will leave it sitting about there, which I think looks spot on. So I'm just going to start by very gently scoring a line in there, and then as I go deeper I can put a little bit more pressure on. I want a nice deep line here. If possible, I'd like to go down the depth of the inlay, and I think that looks good. So next up, I'm just going to take a really sharp chisel and I'm just going to remove some of that waste. Very gently. Hitting this back wall too hard could lift it up and split it, so I'm being incredibly gentle with this. That will allow me now to stick this in place but locate it back against that wall that I've just cut in there. So I'm going to cover the back of it with a bit of masking tape and then we'll glue it in position. I'm going to put a good bead of glue right the way along this edge because I want it all to stick. Now wenge is actually quite an oily wood, so I don't think there'll be any problem in getting this off again. And that's stuck on quite nicely. I need to turn it round again. It is going to be one of those jobs. And now we can just start marking out the front face. That done. Peel it off again. It's a bit of a mess of masking tape, but it's all going to come out anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem. And then it's just a case of repeating that process on this edge. Now I haven't gone down quite as far here, so I need to be a little bit more careful. And that looks like it's going to work absolutely beautifully. So that's the outline cut. So now we need to concentrate on getting rid of some of this waste in the middle. And for that, I'm going to need another tool. And it's actually one of my favourite tools. It's the little hand router. Lovely little tool. I've also got its baby brother, which might look an awful lot like a toy, but for little jobs like this, it's absolutely spot on. Unfortunately, the cutter on this one is slightly too wide for the narrowest point of this inlay, but it will come in to get as far into that corner as we possibly can. And then we'll just have to clean the rest out with whatever we have available to us. So I'm just going to start very gently taking the middle of this out. Now in theory, because we've cut down both of these edges, it shouldn't splinter past there, but that is theory at this point. So now it's just a case of kind of repeating that process, cutting with the scalpel, set the router plane up with a tiny bit more cut, take a bit more out. Okay, and there's the first one done. It might need a little bit of fine tuning, and obviously this is pulling straight all the time, so it's not sitting into the radius properly, but with a little bit of persuasion and the application of some super glue, that should go in absolutely fine. I'm really happy with that. There's no margin at all around it, there's no gaps, so there won't be any need for excessive filling. So we've just got another 8 of those to do, and we can call it a day. Okay, and on to the last one, and this has taken, I'd say, around about 3 hours to do so far. It's been a little bit fiddly, it's been quite tricky, but so far so good. And I've just got this final one to do, and I've kind of adapted my technique a little bit with these thinner ones. And what I've been doing is I've just been marking as I did the first time, then I'm putting a saw cut in, like that, and then I'm putting another saw cut in, kind of the thickness of the thinnest part of this. And because these last few are so tiny, that's probably about 70 or 80% of the inlay just cut out with that saw curve. I'll just clean that out. And with that done, I kind of place the inlay into it, and then very gently, without marking myself, I'll just scribe in the outline of the rest of it as best I can, and then I put another saw cut in. Taking care not to touch the rest of the fretboard. Gently take that out with the chisel. And these little Japanese pull saws are great for this kind of stuff, because you can almost use them like a file. Or a rasp even. Tiny little bit of clean up. And that's the last one done. And then I think we can treat ourselves to a little sneak peek of what it's all going to look like. And I think that looks really good. That is exactly what I had in mind. So next up, nothing really for it. Break out the super glue and get them stuck in. So they're all nicely stuck in now. So next up is we need to get these cleaned up. There is a little bit of excess in some of them, kind of proud of the surface of the board, and there's some bits where it's kind of sticking over the edge. So I'll tackle that first, and all I'm going to do is get a very small hand plane and just smooth those down till they're flush with the edge, and then we can get a sanding block and just finish all this off nicely. if anyone was wondering what it was that I used to plane the edges of those markers, it's my little Stanley 101. Brilliant, very, very handy little plane. I actually picked this up at a car boot sale for the pricely sum of £1. It was a little bit rusty. I had to do a little bit of cleaning up on it, and the iron was incredibly dull, but it's good quality and it's sharpened up beautifully, and it's a brilliant little detail plane. Keep your eyes out, they are out there, and you can get a very, very useful tool for not much money. And I just thought, seeing as I was using my little router planes, I would use my mini plane as well. So next up, we need to take the fret slotting saw again, set it up for the right depth of cut for the tangs of the frets that I've got, and go back in and just re-establish all these fret slots properly, because a lot of it will have been sanded away in the last two processes. And then with that done, we need to cut down these two strips of Wenge and get them reattached to the side of the neck. However, that's all going to be for the next episode. I'm going to leave this one here. I think we've made some very nice progress, and I'm very, very happy with the way things have gone. So I'll be back in a couple of days' time with all that. Until then, don't forget to hit that like button if you've enjoyed this. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.